My dad spent my savings to buy a car for my stepsister. Forgot about this money, Stepmom said laughing. I smiled and called the police. Then Dad begged me, but Coming home after 2 weeks at the beach felt surreal. I had saved for this trip for so long, working weekends, skipping things my friends were doing, just to finally get a taste of freedom. And it was worth it. Late nights by the ocean, campfires, no responsibilities. For the first time in a long time, I was truly happy. But when I walked back into my father's house, that feeling quickly faded. Living here had never felt like home. Not since my father had remarried. My stepmother, Valerie, had him wrapped around her finger from the start. She wasn't just controlling, she was manipulative in a way that made him feel like he had no choice. If Dad ever pushed back on something, she would make threats about leaving, about how he would lose another woman. She even laughed about my mother leaving him once, like it was a joke. And Dad, desperate not to go through that again, gave in every time. And then there was Linda, their daughter. If you could take every spoiled, entitled brat from every movie and roll them into one, you'd get Linda. She acted like the house was hers, like my dad was her dad, and I was just a guest who overstayed my welcome. I couldn't count the number of times she got her way by whining to her mother. If I had something she wanted, it was hers. If I wanted to do something that wasn't about her, forget it. And Dad? He let it happen. Every time. Because making Valerie happy was his #1 priority. I had spent years trying to keep my head down. Working, saving, telling myself that once I got my own car, I'd be one step closer to getting out of there for good. But as soon as I stepped out of my Uber and saw the brand new white Honda Civic in the driveway, something felt wrong. It wasn't Dad's. And it definitely wasn't Valerie's. I grabbed my bags and went inside. The sound of laughter came from the kitchen. Valerie and Linda. Linda turned when she saw me and grinned. "Hey, Andy. Look outside." I looked at the window, confused. What am I looking at?" She rolled her eyes like I was stupid. "The car. It's mine. Dad bought it for me while you were away. Surprise birthday present." I froze for a second. "Oh. Nice. Happy late birthday, I guess." She just smiled and went back to whatever she was doing, but my mind was racing. Something didn't add up. Dad wasn't the type to just drop thousands of dollars on a new car. And where the hell was the money coming from? As far as I knew, we weren't exactly rolling in dough. I pushed the thought aside and headed for my room. Whatever. Not my problem. I didn't think much about it for the next 3 days. I was still in post-vacation mode, catching up on sleep and hanging out with my friends. Then, on the 3rd day, I needed some money. I had saved every dollar I could for 2 years. I had finally reached my goal, $8,000, just before the trip. Dad always said banks were a mistake. As long as it's in your account, it doesn't belong to you. It can be taken away at any time, he would say. So I kept it in the family safe, the one in his office. I went upstairs, unlocked the safe, and immediately felt my stomach drop. The envelope was gone. I stared into the empty safe, my mind scrambling for explanations. Maybe Dad had moved it. Maybe he thought it wasn't safe there anymore. Trying not to panic, I closed the safe and went downstairs. Valerie was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, looking as relaxed as ever. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Do you know where my money is? The envelope from the safe?" She didn't even look up. "Oh, we used it." I blinked. "What?" She finally looked at me, grinning like it was funny. "For Linda's car. Your dad said it was just sitting there, so we put it to good use." I felt a wave of heat run through my body. "You used my money?" "Well, technically it was in our safe," she said, as if that somehow justified it. "And it was for family. And Linda is family, isn't she?" She laughed. "Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. Just forget about it." Forget it. 2 years of working every extra shift I could get. 2 years of skipping out on things my friends were doing so I could save up. 2 years of planning, knowing that when I turned 18, I'd finally have something of my own. And she just wanted me to forget. I turned away before I said something I'd regret. I had to talk to my dad. I paced the house for the next 2 hours, waiting for him to come home. When I finally heard his truck pull into the driveway, I stormed outside before he even had a chance to come in. "Dad," I said, trying to stay calm. "Where's my money?" He sighed and rubbed his neck. "Andy, listen. Don't do that. Just tell me where it is." He avoided my eyes. We used it for Linda's car. It was her birthday and dash. "You used my money?" My voice came out louder than I expected, but I didn't care. "You knew I was saving it for my own car." I know, he said quickly. "But you weren't using it, and Linda really needed something reliable. We figured." "We? You mean Valerie figured? And you just went along with it, like always?" His jaw tightened. "That's not fair, Andy." "Not fair?" I almost laughed. "You stole from me. You let them take everything I worked for. And now what? I'm just supposed to get over it." He let out a breath, as if trying to hold himself together. "I'll pay you back." "When?" Silence. Then I knew he didn't have a plan. He had let Valerie take control, as always. And that's when I made my decision. I smiled. "Okay." He looked surprised. "Okay? Yeah. I'll forget about it." He let out a breath of relief. "Good. I knew you'd understand." I walked back inside, past Valerie, who was still lounging on the couch like she owned the place. I went upstairs, closed the door, and took out my phone. I dialed the police. As soon as the officer picked up, I barely had time to say, "Hello," before my bedroom door slammed open. Valerie. Her face was contorted with rage, and before I could react, she lunged at me, ripping the phone out of my hand. "You little brat!" she yelled. Before I could grab it back, she slammed it into the wall. The screen shattered on impact, shards of glass scattered across the floor. My heart was racing, but before I could even process what had just happened, she grabbed my arm and pushed me out of my own room. I stumbled into the hallway, barely regaining my balance before she pushed me again, this time towards the stairs. "Go!" she barked. "You want to act like a little victim? Fine. But you're going to sit down and listen first." By the time I reached the kitchen, my father was already there, rubbing his forehead like he had a headache. He looked at me, then at the broken phone in Valerie's hand, and sighed. "Really, Andy? Calling the cops? About this?" Valerie threw my broken phone on the counter and crossed her arms. "You're lucky I didn't throw you out of the house for pulling a stunt like that." I could still feel my heart pounding in my chest. "You stole from me," Valerie scoffed. "We didn't steal anything. We bought Linda a car. For the family." "For Linda," I shot back. "Not for me. Not for you. Not for Dad. You spent my money on her, and you didn't even ask me." Dad shook his head and looked tired. "Andy, come on. You didn't use it. It just sat there." I clenched my fists. "It was just sitting there because I was saving it. For a car. Just like Linda. And now there's a car in the driveway," Valerie said, as if that solved everything. "So what's the big deal?" I stared at her, trying to figure out how she could say something so insane. "The big deal is it's not mine." "Andy, you're being selfish," Dad said. "Linda needed a car. She has school, she has responsibilities, and I don't." I cut him off. "I have work. I had plans. But that doesn't matter, does it? Because as long as Valerie and Linda get what they want, everything's fine." Valerie rolled her eyes. "Stop playing the victim. You're living here rent-free, eating our food, using our electricity, and now you're throwing a tantrum over money we spent on our family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "My money. Not yours. Not his. Mine. You didn't touch Linda's life savings, did you? Or your own?" "Just mine." Valerie grinned. Because Linda deserved it. And you? You're just acting entitled. I looked at my father, waiting for him to say something, anything to defend me. But he just stood there silent. He wouldn't even look at me. And that was it. That was the moment I knew I was done. I took a deep breath, looked Valerie dead in the eye, and smiled. Okay, I said. If that's how you feel, then you won't mind if I leave, will you? Dad finally looked up. What? I turned toward the stairs. Give me 10 minutes. I'll be out of your way for good. It took me less than 10 minutes to pack my bag. I didn't have much, just some clothes, my wallet, and whatever was left of my things that Linda hadn't claimed as hers over the years. My laptop, my headphones, a few personal items. That was it. My cell phone was destroyed, but I didn't care. I was getting out. Valerie didn't even try to stop me. She just stood in the kitchen with that smug look on her face, arms folded, acting like she had won. Dad, on the other hand, looked uncertain, as if he hadn't expected me to actually leave. Where are you going anyway? He asked as I headed for the door. To Grandpa's, I said without turning around. That made him jump. He knew exactly what it meant. Grandpa had never liked Valerie. He saw right through her from day one. He told Dad not to marry her. He told him she was using him. But Dad didn't listen. He was too desperate, too scared to be alone. And now here we were. I walked out the door, slung my bag over my shoulder, and didn't look back. My grandfather's house was on the other side of town. It was old, small, but more of a home than Dad's house ever was. When I knocked, he opened the door and took one look at me before stepping aside. Come in, son. I sat down in the living room and he poured me a glass of iced tea before sitting across from me. All right, he said. What happened? I told him everything. From the moment I got home and saw the car to the second I walked out the door. I left nothing out. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, silent. His fingers tapped the wooden armrest, a habit of his when he was angry. Then he let out a breath and stood. Get in the truck. I frowned. What? We're going to your father's house. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but this wasn't it. Grandpa was an old-school kind of guy. Calm, patient. He didn't rush into things. When he reacted that way, it meant he was angry. And when Grandpa got mad, people listened. We got in his truck, and he didn't say a word the whole way. He just stared straight ahead, gripping the steering wheel tightly. When we pulled into the driveway, Dad was outside, as if he had been waiting for me to come back. But when he saw Grandpa get out of the truck, his face paled. Dad? He said, his voice unsure. Grandpa slammed the truck door and walked over to him. Inside. Now. Dad hesitated, glancing toward the house, as if debating whether to call Valerie for backup. But one look at Grandpa and he didn't argue. He went inside, and we followed. The second we stepped into the living room, Valerie appeared, already looking annoyed. Oh, great. What is he doing here? Grandpa completely ignored her. He looked straight at Dad. Tell me exactly what you did with my grandson. Dad swallowed. It's not what it sounds like, Dash. Grandpa cut him off. You took his money. Without asking. Without permission. And you gave it to your daughter. Dad opened his mouth, but nothing came out. You stole from your own son. Grandpa continued. You let that woman walk all over you, use you, and now you've driven your own child out of the house because you're too much of a coward to stand up to her. Valerie scoffed. Oh, give me a break, Dash. Grandpa turned on her so fast that she actually took a step back. You. Shut up. I'm talking to my son. For the first time, Valerie had nothing to say. Grandpa looked back at Dad. You're going to pay Andy back. Every single cent. And you're going to do it right now. Or we can take this to court. Your choice. Dad's face turned red, but he couldn't even look me in the eye. Dad, come on, it's not that simple. Yes, it is, Grandpa said. You took from him. You owe him. And if you don't make it right, you're going to lose more than money. You'll lose him. Dad looked at me then, as if it had just hit him that I was really done. That I wasn't coming back. That this time he had finally gone too far. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Because this time he was the one who had to make a choice. The room was filled with silence. My dad stood there, looking helpless, like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He wouldn't even look at me. But of course Valerie wasn't going to let it end like that. She stepped forward, arms crossed, that same smug look on her face. "All right, enough of this nonsense," she snapped. "I don't know who the hell you think you are, coming into my house and talking to me like this. But let me get something straight, old man. I run this house. I decide what's fair. And if Andy can't handle that, then maybe he should stop being such a selfish little..." Grandpa moved so fast I barely had time to process it. He grabbed her hair. A handful of it. She screamed, her hands flying up to claw at his grip, but Grandpa was strong. Stronger than a man his age should be. Stronger than Valerie had ever expected. "You listen to me, you rotten little parasite," Grandpa said, his voice deadly calm. "This is my son's house. My grandson's house. And you? You're nothing but a goddamn squatter." Dad jerked forward as if to stop him, but a look from Grandpa froze him. Valerie flailed, trying to hit Grandpa's hand, but he didn't even flinch. He dragged her to the front door, her feet barely keeping up. "You sucked the life out of my son, stole my grandson, and turned this family into a joke," he continued, yanking the door open. "But guess what? The joke's over. Let go of me, you crazy old..." Before she could finish, Grandpa threw her out. She stumbled onto the porch, barely catching herself before landing face first on the steps. Then something unexpected happened. Linda came running out of her room, phone in hand, looking completely panicked. "Mom? Mom? What the hell is going on?" Grandpa turned, eyes narrowing. "Oh, perfect timing. You can join her." Linda's face twisted in indignation. "Are you kidding me? You can't just dash." Grandpa didn't wait. He grabbed her wrist and, with far less effort than I thought it would take, yanked her toward the door. "Let go of me, you psycho!" she screamed. Grandpa pushed her outside, right next to her mother. Valerie was still on the floor, her hair a mess, her eyes wide with shock. Then Grandpa turned back to my dad. "Now, you have two choices." Dad swallowed. "Dad, come on." "Shut up. Listen," Grandpa interrupted. "You either fix what you did, or you go with them." Dad's eyes darted to Valerie, who was still struggling to get to her feet. Then to Linda, who was frantically typing something on her phone, probably texting her friends about how she was being victimized. For the first time, he actually looked scared. As if he realized that this time he was the one with something to lose. Dad stood there, breathing heavily, staring at the front door where Valerie and Linda were still sprawled out. His face was pale, as if he had just woken up from a deep sleep and didn't know where he was. Grandpa didn't let up. "Either you fix this or you go with them." Dad swallowed hard. Then he slowly turned to me. "I'll sell the car." Valerie's head snapped up. "What?" Linda shot to her feet as if she'd been electrocuted. "Dad, no! That's my car!" Grandpa chuckled darkly. "No, honey. It's technically Andy's car. Or at least his money paid for it." Dad sighed and rubbed his forehead. "I'm going to sell the car and give Andy his money back. It's the only way to make this right." Valerie's expression turned ugly. "Danny," she said in that fake sweet tone she always used when she wanted to manipulate him. "You're being ridiculous. Let's just know." Dad cut her off, surprising even himself. "I have been ridiculous. For years. I let you walk all over me, I let you treat Andy like garbage, and I stole from my own son to keep you happy. But I'm done." That shut her up. Dad turned to me. "Andy, pack your things. We're going to Grandpa's for a while." I blinked. "Wait, we?" Dad hesitated, looking at me, then at Valerie, then back at Grandpa. Then he took a deep breath. "Yeah," he said. "I think I need a break from all this." Valerie's mouth dropped open. "Are you crazy? Danny, this is your home. I am your wife. And I don't know if I want that anymore," he admitted. "Pack your things. You and Linda can stay with your mother for a while." Linda screamed. "I hate you!" Valerie's face turned red and she stormed back inside, pushing past Dad. "This isn't over." Grandpa grinned. "Oh, honey, it sure is." We left before she could say another word. A week passed. Grandpa helped Dad list the car, and within a few days it was sold. True to his word, Dad gave me back every cent of my $8,000. It felt good, but there was still something hanging over us. Valerie. She and Linda were gone, but I knew that wasn't the last we'd hear of them. And I was right. One afternoon when Grandpa and I went out to run errands, Dad stayed home. When we got back, as soon as we pulled into the driveway, Grandpa's face went dark. Linda's car was parked out front. I felt a pit in my stomach. No way. Grandpa turned off the engine and we went inside. Valerie and Linda were in the kitchen, sitting at the table as if they had never left. Linda was on the phone, her legs propped up on a chair, while Valerie sipped coffee from Grandpa's favorite mug. Dad stood at the counter, looking like he had just been through hell. Grandpa's eye twitched. "What?" "That. Hell." Valerie turned and smiled sweetly. "Oh, you're back. We just caught up with Danny. He invited us over to talk things over." Dad didn't say a word. Valerie grinned. "Oh, don't look so shocked. This is still his house. And a husband should talk things over with his wife before making rash decisions." Grandpa stepped forward. "Ex-wife, actually." She laughed. "Not yet, he isn't. He hasn't filed a damn thing. And guess what?" She sat back, looking smug. "He's not going to." I looked at Dad. He didn't make eye contact. He was just standing there, frozen. Linda let out a fake yawn. "Are we done? This place is so boring. I want to go home." That's when Grandpa did something none of us expected. He grabbed the coffee cup out of Valerie's hand and threw it against the wall. It shattered instantly, coffee dripping down the cabinets. The room fell silent. Grandpa leaned in close to Dad and said, "You have one chance to get this right. 1. Tell them to pack their things. Now." Dad clenched his fists. Then he finally let go and looked at Valerie. "Pack your things," he said. Her smile faltered. "Danny, let's just pack your things." This time his voice was stronger. Valerie's jaw clenched. "You're making a mistake." Dad shook his head. "No. I already made the mistake. This is me fixing it." Linda scoffed. "This is so stupid." Dad walked to the door, opened it, and gestured outside. "Go." Valerie stood slowly, her face unreadable. Then she grabbed her purse, pulled Linda's arm, and marched to the door. Before she stepped out, she turned to Dad one last time. "You're going to regret this." Dad met her gaze. "No. I won't." And with that, he closed the door behind them. Update. A few days after I kicked Valerie and Linda out for good, Dad finally sold the car. He didn't hesitate, he just took the best offer he could get, and gave me back every cent of my $8,000. As he put the money in my hands, he let out a long breath. "I'm sorry, Andy. For everything." I didn't say anything right away. I just nodded. Because honestly, it was the first time in years that I felt like my dad was really my dad again. A week later, he officially filed for divorce. No hesitation. No backing down. When Grandpa heard, he grinned and patted Dad on the back. "Took you long enough." Dad just sighed. "Yeah. It did." Then he turned to me. "Listen, Andy. I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to come back home. If you want to. No pressure." I looked at Grandpa, who just grinned. "Your choice, kid. But if you asked me?" Looks like your old man finally got his head out of his ass. I thought about that for a long time. Then I smiled. All right. Let's go home.